A girl had been living among the bookshelves for a month. She thought books were incredible, a way to know what people were thinking hundreds of years ago. Suddenly, she opened a mysterious book that told the story of the continent of Crescentia. The elven kingdom of Silva was an ancient and storied nation. King Theron, one of its greatest kings, had crushed a rebellion with an iron fist and brought the kingdom into an era of glory. But he was also a tyrant. During his reign, women vanished from all public offices, both civil and military. The iron-willed king found any excuse to drive women from the public sphere, trapping them in their homes. He desperately wanted a son to inherit his throne, but tragically all he got was a mountain of princesses and not a single prince. On the day the queen went into labor, the entire kingdom waited with bated breath. The scene shifted. The girl lost in her book accidentally fell from a ladder. As the book hit the floor, a flash of light erupted, and the world started spinning around her. When she opened her eyes again, she was shocked. Why did this scene feel so real? And wow, the king was handsome. But the weirdest part was that she could hear everything they were saying. She had been transported into this world. And in a terrible twist of fate, she had been reborn as the queen's newborn baby. To make things even stranger, the queen also named her Cheryl. Yes, she was now an infant. And the very first thing the king did after picking her up was rip open her swaddling to check. In the plaza before the palace, the king held up an infant and announced to the people the birth of a prince. But that baby, the little prince receiving the nation's blessing, wasn't her. Back in the palace, Cheryl lay there, completely miserable. "I'm the queen's baby," she wanted to scream. The queen looked just as helpless. The king had already announced to the world that he had a son, Prince Xaden. Poor Cheryl was now completely alone. It turned out the tyrannical king had swapped his own daughter with his younger brother's son. To keep the secret, he even had his brother and sister-in-law killed, and every person who knew the truth was placed under a magical binding. And as for Cheryl, she was about to be sent to the divine spire as a sacrifice. When the transported Cheryl learned all this, she was devastated. This is a nightmare-level start. How am I supposed to survive this? After taking care of everything, the king came to see his daughter. He looked down at the tiny infant with disdain and picked her up roughly. "Just this little thing, not cute at all." Cheryl fumed silently. "You don't like me? Well, I don't like you either." The king turned and ordered coldly, "Bring Prince Xaden in. And you, queen, remember this. He is your child." Then he shot a disgusted look at the little princess. "As for her, send her to the divine spire." The so-called divine spire was a place of sacrifice. Anyone sent there was doomed to die, though it was said their souls would be claimed by the gods. The moment the baby princess heard this, she started wailing. "Give me a break! Are you even my dad? Who could be so cruel?" The queen broke down, sobbing hysterically. She begged frantically for her daughter's life. "Cheryl is my own child, your majesty. Please spare her. I'll send her far away. I swear no one will ever know who she is." Luckily, the cold-hearted king had a tiny sliver of mercy left. Before leaving, he muttered, "Just make sure I never see her again." A carriage slipped out of the palace quietly. In a remote corner of the city, the queen handed Cheryl over to a man. From that day on, they would live worlds apart, never to meet again. Though her heart was breaking, the queen had no other choice. And just like that, the newborn princess was sent away. A few days later, at a manor on the outskirts of a small town, a group of maids were whispering, "I heard the baron brought a baby home, but he already has 3 sons. He has another kid out there? Men are all pigs. The poor lady of the house must be heartbroken." But in the baron's room, his wife sighed after reading a letter. "This child has truly had a bitter start in life." Suddenly, the door banged open, and in walked the baron's second son, Arden, the eldest, Mikhail, and the little troublemaker, Avery. They had heard from the servants that their father had brought home a baby. Baron Valerius took the opportunity. "Come here, all of you. You need to know about this. From this day forward, she is your little sister. Her name will be Cheryl Valerius." The second son, Arden, immediately lost it. "I'll never accept the child of some mistress. She has bad blood in her veins." Even the usually calm and composed eldest brother shot her an icy glare. Arden kept yelling at his father, "You're 50 years old, have some self-respect. You're disgracing our family." The little troublemaker, Avery, then dropped a bomb, asking their dad, "Who's the mistress?" The baron slapped his forehead. "Oh no, this misunderstanding has gotten way out of hand." His wife, who knew the truth, tried to explain. "I've already forgiven your father. Let's not speak of this again." Arden was furious. "Mom, he's not worth it. You should let the old man go live with his mistress." Seeing the situation spiraling, the baroness spoke sternly. "Do not pursue this matter any further. No one is to speak of it again. All I know is that Cheryl is our child now." Arden looked like he was about to faint from rage. He stormed out, slamming the door behind him. The baron and his wife sighed helplessly. It seemed the children weren't taking it well, but they owed an immense debt to a certain someone, and Cheryl's identity had to remain an absolute secret. So the Baron had to take the blame. And so little Cheryl settled into the Valerius household. Though her brothers hated her, everyone else was kind, especially the Baroness, who treated Cheryl as if she were her own. One day, the Baroness was carrying Cheryl for a walk in the garden. The little baby was happily soaking up the sun when she saw Arden playing with his dog, a Bichon Frise named Lucky. The sight of Cheryl in his mother's arms just made Arden angrier. He looked at the dog toy in his hand, and an idea sparked. He threw it right at Cheryl's head, shouting, "Lucky, fetch!" The dog leaped towards the Baroness, and everyone screamed in panic. The Baroness stumbled, and Cheryl went flying out of her arms. Only then did a look of horror cross Arden's face. After a perfect arc, little Cheryl landed on the grass. It hurt so much she wanted to scream. "Oh, that really, really hurt!" The Baroness quickly scooped her up, checking her frantically. "Oh my goodness, is that a bump on her head?" The Baron rushed over, asking anxiously, "How is Cheryl? What if she's hurt her head?" The little girl was crying her eyes out. "You think my head's hurt? I'm just in pain." After a thorough checkup by the doctor confirmed it was just a surface injury. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. The Baroness angrily scolded Arden. "How could you do something like that? What would you have done if something serious had happened to Cheryl? How would you feel if we had to get rid of Lucky because of this? Did the dog eat your conscience? You're grounded for 3 months. Now get over here and apologize to your sister." Arden was still a little defiant after the scolding, but the eldest brother, Mikhail, put a hand on his shoulder and told him he'd gone too far. The little troublemaker, Avery, also whispered a secret to his brother. "That girl is a witch. You can't mess with her. You're so dumb." Mikhail interrogated Avery, asking if he'd done something. Avery shook his head frantically. "I didn't do anything." But Mikhail grabbed him. "Using black magic on a normal person? Do you know what the punishment is for that?" Terrified, the little rascal confessed. "Big brother, spare me. I only used the weakest black magic, a curse to make her lose 5 pounds, but it didn't work. She's immune to all black magic. What is she if not a witch?" Mikhail was speechless. "Why don't you use such a great spell on our friends who like this story?" When a reluctant Arden came to her bedside to apologize, he inexplicably blushed. But Cheryl had already noticed the look of panic on his face when she went flying. He hadn't actually wanted to hurt her. He was just being a kid, trying to give the newcomer a hard time. Thinking this, Cheryl gave him a cute smile and gurgled something that sounded like, "Bro there." That one sound turned Arden's face beet red. She smiled at me. He was instantly flustered. He looked down at the tiny hand Cheryl held out and almost involuntarily took it. The feeling was so strange. So this is what having a little sister felt like. It was amazing. Arden felt like his heart had been struck. Watching this, the Baron and his wife finally relaxed. Kids are simple, after all. What Cheryl didn't expect, however, was that in the days to come, this second brother would annoy her to death. Faced with a babbling little Cheryl, Arden surrendered without a fight. The little troublemaker, Avery, was still complaining. "She doesn't act like a newborn at all." The eldest, Mikhail, shot back, "And you don't act like a 4-year-old with all the trouble you cause." Ever since that day, Arden was constantly in the baby's room, visiting at least 10 times a day. Seeing his enthusiasm, the Baroness would remind him, "Your sister needs to sleep. Go play outside." Arden would pout. "But father grounded me, so I can't go out. Why does she have to sleep so much? I'll stay here and play with her." Meanwhile, his dog, Lucky, was probably getting lonely enough to grow moss. Arden convinced his mother to go rest, saying he would watch over the baby. The Baroness was pleased. It seemed her son was growing up. But for Cheryl, this was not a good thing. Seeing Cheryl sleeping so still, Arden got nervous. "Is she not breathing?" He poked her chubby little cheek, so soft and bouncy. "This is fun. She moved. My sister's alive." His finger kept poking. "Hey, your favorite brother is here to play with you. I'm right here, so you better wake up." Cheryl was woken up by the racket. "I feel like I was dreaming about 1,000 crows cawing. It can't be this brat, can it?" She waved her little fists, babbling in protest. "I'm so tired, you little monster." But in Arden's eyes, this translated to, "You want me to hold you." Cheryl was screaming internally. "Go away, I need to sleep." But Arden, trembling slightly, reached out his hands and mumbled to himself, "All right, I guess I can hold you. You know, Avery never dares to ask me for this." He clumsily lifted Cheryl. "Whoa, my sister's so soft. And she smells nice." Cheryl, on the other hand, was terrified. "This idiot is holding me so awkwardly. Please don't drop me." She instinctively wrapped her arms around Arden's neck. The little troll completely misunderstood. "Wow, my sister really likes me." He started bouncing her happily. "Since you like me so much, I guess I'll reluctantly accept you." But by now, Cheryl was about to pass out. She was not happy at all. This pest was always running over to her room, and she couldn't even get a decent nap. Cheryl endured this for 3 miserable months. Baroness took great care of her every day, but she was a little confused. Why did Cheryl barely have the strength to drink her milk? She had no idea that Cheryl was forced to play with Arden every day. The boy was treating her like a living doll. A problem that stumped a 12-year-old was easily answered by an infant. It started when Baron Valerius gave his sons a challenging math problem. Arden, who could barely get 1 plus 1 right, broke into a sweat looking at the large numbers and just took a wild guess. Mikhail laughed at him for guessing wrong. "You're such an idiot!" Even 3-year-old Avery got the right answer. Cheryl was curious. What kind of problem was it? When she crawled over to the board, she was stunned. This is basically kindergarten-level stuff back on Earth. Seeing Arden get it wrong again, the Baron sighed and threatened to send him to a monastery. Arden panicked. "But my dream is to be a knight on the front lines!" His father was exasperated. Ever since King Theron took the throne, there are no illiterate knights in Silva. Hearing the name Theron again, Cheryl seethed with anger. "It's all because of that guy that I ended up like this." She crawled closer to the board and examined the problem. Just then, the Baron prompted Arden. "What's your answer for the second question?" Arden was about to lose his mind. "How am I supposed to know the answer to such a hard problem? Can someone in the comments help him out?" Just then, little Cheryl gurgled and pointed to one of the choices. Arden, having nothing to lose, just blurted it out. To his astonishment, he was right. He scooped up Cheryl and planted a few kisses on her cheek. "You're my little lucky star." Cheryl, dizzy from being shaken, was fuming inside. "It's not me, it's you. Your basics are just terrible." The scene made the Baron break out in a cold sweat. The youngest, Avery, immediately accused his brother of cheating, pointing out that the little witch had helped him. Arden, thrilled to finally get one right, wasn't about to admit it and angrily denied it. The Baron stepped in, scolding Arden for not studying, but then he turned to Avery. "I heard you used a curse on your sister?" Hearing this, Cheryl nearly exploded with rage. "That little troublemaker used a curse on me. I'm going to rip you to shreds." Avery explained pitifully. "I just wanted to make her lose 5 pounds, but it didn't even work. I think she must have a null body." It turned out that in this world, a null body referred to the rare few who were immune to magic. Little Cheryl wailed in fury. "I only weigh a few pounds to begin with. You were trying to kill me." Avery shot a sharp glance at Cheryl, making her heart pound. She had a feeling this little kid was more than he seemed. Could he have figured out I'm not from this world? But she didn't want to think about it. As a little girl, she was always bullied because other kids had brothers, and she didn't. She never imagined that after being reborn into a book, she'd suddenly have 3 handsome older brothers, each one better looking than the last. But when she woke up, it was just a dream. Awake now, Cheryl felt a little disappointed, but then she thought about it. It was kind of incredible. She really did have 3 brothers. They were all a bit unreliable, but they would definitely grow up to be handsome. The Arden in her dream was so gentle, though she wished he were a bit smarter. She wondered what Mikhail, the eldest, would be like. But Avery, he used magic to curse her. That kid would definitely not be a good brother. While she was lost in thought, the Baroness came to get her. They were going into town for supplies and wanted to take her along. After trying on 81 different outfits, they finally picked one just before Cheryl had a complete meltdown. Hearing about the trip, Arden immediately ran over. Whenever they went on a long trip, his mother was always generous with gifts. After being firmly told no, he shamelessly claimed that Cheryl would cry if he wasn't there. But the Baroness already knew that he'd been bothering Cheryl so much lately that the baby would probably be happier without him. After shaking off the annoying Arden, they finally made it to town. Looking at the architecture, Cheryl got a better sense of this world. Then she overheard passers-by talking about the divine spire. It seemed people in this world believed in gods, who were said to grant magical abilities. The little girl grew curious, wondering if she could learn magic herself. The Baroness stopped at a dessert shop, thinking she'd bring something back for Arden to make up for leaving him. But just as they walked in, someone called out to them. 3 lavishly dressed women greeted them, but they all had a fake catty vibe. One of them immediately brought up the sore subject. "Is this the child from that famous affair?" Cheryl's heart sank. "Oh no, I've got a bad feeling about this." The women continued their chatter. "I can't believe we ran into the Baroness here. After what happened in your family, I'd think you wouldn't want to show your face in public. Baron Valerius is just too much, not even revealing who that woman is. Is he still trying to protect her?" After delivering her backhanded comments, the woman covered her mouth with a smirk. The others offered fake sympathy with cold expressions. The Baroness started to regret coming in here at all. Seeing them bullying her adoptive mother, what would Cheryl do next? Faced with the women's snide remarks, the little girl deliberately squeezed the large grape in her hand. splattering juice all over the gossiping woman's dress. The kind Baroness, worried Cheryl might be choking, rushed to check on her. Instead, the little girl called out in a tiny, slurred voice, "Mama!" The Baroness was so moved she was on the verge of tears. "Cheryl just called me Mama!" Then, the little girl planted a big kiss on her cheek, which left the Baroness completely stunned and charmed. The three gossiping women were also captivated by how adorable the baby was. The Baroness beamed with joy. "This child is just so attached to me. She may not be my biological daughter, but she's dearer to me than if she were." She took the opportunity to clap back. "You know, women shouldn't put too much stock in men. Sometimes a loving and devoted child is worth more than anything." With that, she lovingly stroked Cheryl's head. The sweet, loving scene between the two of them made the gossipy woman clench her fists in anger. It turned out her own child was still being raised elsewhere and couldn't come home. She quickly changed the subject, turning to flatter the woman next to her. "This is the esteemed Lady Rosalind. Her sister is the little prince's personal handmaiden. She's quite a favorite of His Majesty now." But Lady Rosalind just frowned. "My sister has her own troubles. I heard the last group of handmaidens were all executed for some reason. Lately, the palace maids are replaced every 6 months." Hearing this, Cheryl's heart skipped a beat. That must be the king's doing, getting rid of any maids who might expose the prince's true identity. The history books also recorded that the Valerius family was very good to Cheryl, and she spent a peaceful childhood with them. Unfortunately, once the king and the prince discovered her whereabouts, her life spiraled into a tragedy she couldn't escape, becoming a puppet manipulated by others. Thinking of this, Cheryl was filled with indignation. "Since I've started this life, I refuse to just sit back and wait for disaster." But in this world, how could she take control of her own destiny? When she saw a book titled An Introduction to Magic, an idea immediately formed in her mind. It seemed learning magic was the only reliable way. As the Baroness bought a stack of books for the eldest son, little Cheryl babbled and pointed at a book. The Baroness was puzzled. Why would a child who couldn't even read be interested in a book? But the moment Cheryl held the book, she became determined to master magic and protect herself. Faced with a dazzling array of toys and pretty clothes, she wasn't interested in any of them. Just as everyone was wondering what gift she would choose, Cheryl picked up a book called An Introduction to Magic and started flipping through it as if she were reading. The sight made the Baroness cover her mouth and laugh, while the maids exclaimed, "That's amazing! A 3-month-old baby who loves books!" But Cheryl's mind was just as blown. The writing in this world was completely different from her own, yet somehow she could read it all. She learned from the book that magic in Crescentia had 2 main theories. One school of thought believed that the gods created the world, and incantations were the keys to unlocking that divine power. The other believed that the world was made of various elements, and magical incantations functioned to arrange those elements. Either way, to master magic, one first had to learn the incantations. Just as Cheryl was engrossed in her studies, a maid started dangling a cat toy in front of her. Cheryl was about to lose her mind. "Do I really look that stupid? Being a baby is so hard." All she wanted was to read in peace. Suddenly, out of the corner of her eye, she saw her eldest brother, Mikhail, reading quietly. As a 15-year-old boy, none of the servants dared to bother him. Cheryl looked at him with envy, wondering when she'd finally grow up. Soon it was dinner time, and Cheryl was still engrossed in her book. The Baroness found it strange. She didn't know why Cheryl had stopped liking naps and now just wanted to hug a book all day. Can a child this young really understand it? The third brother, Avery, seized the opportunity. "I told you she was a witch and you didn't believe me." All he got for his comment was a harsh glare from Arden. Baron Valerius, however, was delighted. "Children grow up so fast. Before we know it, Cheryl will be sitting at the table with us." Just as he finished speaking, the room suddenly went dark with a pop. Cheryl realized this world had power outages too. Then a ball of fire appeared out of nowhere. Mikhail was slowly conjuring a flame in his hand. With a wave of his hand, a massive firebird soared through the room. Cheryl was stunned, but then she got excited. "So this is magic!" The firebird swiftly lit the candles on the walls, and in an instant, the room was as bright as day. Cheryl was completely in awe of Mikhail. "So my big brother is a master of fire magic." Cheryl was filled with admiration. From that day on, she would secretly crawl to her big brother's door, dreaming that she too could learn magic. But her aloof big brother would just pick her up, take her to the Baroness, and complain, "Keep an eye on Cheryl. Don't let her bother me." At that moment, Mikhail seemed like a demon, and Cheryl was too scared to even breathe. She had finally met the toughest nut to crack in this world. No matter how much she tried to be cute or clever, her eldest brother remained completely unmoved. At 15, Mikhail was the definition of a star student. In the Elven Kingdom, where public education wasn't yet widespread, his exceptional intelligence caught the eye of a sage, who recommended him for the Royal Academy. but he had a cold personality and wasn't interested in anything besides his studies. One day, outside the academy, Arden was sent to deliver something to his older brother. He noticed a group of girls always following Mikhail around. One of them even boldly invited Mikhail to lunch. Mikhail glanced at Cheryl and an idea struck him. He picked her up and turned to the girl. "I'm sorry, I have to take care of my little sister." Both Arden and Cheryl were shocked. When has he ever taken care of me? As expected, the girl walked away, disappointed. Mikhail explained, "That's a duke's daughter. We can't afford to offend her." It turned out that the title of baron was the lowest among the nobility, and the Valerius family was just that, a barony. Watching the duke's daughter leave, Mikhail was in a good mood. This Cheryl prop is quite useful. Then he actually brought little Cheryl into the classroom with him, just to use her as a shield to avoid being bothered by other female students. As Cheryl watched the teacher lecturing passionately, she was completely captivated. So this is what magical incantations are like. She had tried so hard to win Mikhail over with no success. And now, by a complete accident, her wish had come true. Mikhail watched Cheryl listening intently. This little one is even more focused than I am. He poked her chubby cheek, and she shot him an annoyed look as if he were disturbing her class. Mikhail was finding it harder and harder to figure this little girl out, but he continued to use her to fend off wave after wave of girls. So much so that even Arden couldn't get a chance to hold her. 5 years passed just like that. In a letter to the queen, Baron Valerius wrote, "The little princess is doing well here. She is exceptionally intelligent, and everyone who meets her praises her. She loves to sit by Mikhail's side and read, never making a sound, and can stay quiet for a whole day. She also loves playing with Arden. She is truly a gift from the heavens, and I believe it is because she has inherited your majesty's divine bloodline. I hope the day comes soon when the princess can be reunited with you." After finishing the letter, the baron let out a long sigh. This might be the last letter he'd send to the queen. They had been told not to write anymore. Knowing Cheryl was growing up safe was enough. A girl sent away by her own mother at birth, now a bright and lovely 5-year-old, but who would have guessed she was actually from another world? She used fairy tales from Earth to win people over, vowing that in this life she would no longer be the helpless, bullied Cheryl. As her adoptive parents watched her tell the story of Little Red Riding Hood, which no one had ever heard before, they felt it wasn't necessarily a good thing. Cheryl didn't seem like a normal child. She was too smart, too perceptive, basically a little adult. The baron worried. If she only stands out here in the countryside, that's one thing. But what if some prince or minister takes a liking to her? She'll be dragged into court politics, and then her secret identity will be impossible to hide. Just then, there was a knock on the door. Mikhail came in and said directly, "Cheryl is 5 years old now. We should hire a tutor for her." "What are your plans, father, mother?" The old couple looked at each other, unsure how to answer. Mikhail continued, "Cheryl is very smart, perhaps even more so than I was at her age. With a good education, she could become a renowned figure in the kingdom." The Baroness panicked. "But isn't that exactly what we're afraid of?" She blurted out. "I just want Cheryl to stay by my side." Mikhail was taken aback. "Mother, how can you think that way? Haven't you always treated Cheryl as your own child?" But the Baron cut him off coldly. "Cheryl is still young. We'll discuss this later." The sounds of their argument caught the attention of the maids. "I hear it's because of Lady Cheryl. Master Mikhail is usually so obedient. I can't believe he'd talk back to the Baron over her." These words happened to reach the ears of the third son, Avery. He was already annoyed, so he headed toward his father's room to see what was happening. Just then, Mikhail stormed out, ignoring his younger brother's call and leaving without a backward glance. Seeing this, Avery's resentment grew. Why does Big Brother only care about that little witch? Before, his mother and brothers all doted on him. All the family's love was his. But ever since Cheryl arrived, everything had changed. No one paid attention to him anymore. Even when he was hungry, his mother just told him to ask the cook for food. Everyone was revolving around this illegitimate child. Why did she get to take everything that was his? At that moment, Cheryl pushed open the door. Avery gritted his teeth and squeezed out a few words. "I will never accept you." The words hit Cheryl like a ton of bricks, leaving her stunned. She thought sadly, "I guess you can't make everyone like you. He's the only one in this family who still holds a grudge against me. It seems no matter which world you're in, you can't escape homework." Arden was in agony. "The weather is so nice, I really want to go out and play." He hugged Cheryl and started to bawl. Sob, "You must think I'm stupid because I can't do my homework, so you don't want to play with me anymore, right?" Cheryl sighed. This brother of hers was great in every way, except his brain was smaller than a walnut. She had heard that Mikhail had argued with the Baron because of her. The Baron was probably worried that if she received a good education and was noticed by a high-ranking official, her identity might be exposed. And in the history books, she did indeed lose her life after her identity was revealed. But if she didn't get an education, she'd just be a weak, ordinary person. So Mikhail wasn't wrong, but Baron Valerius wasn't wrong either for trying to protect her. But she couldn't let them keep fighting over her. With that thought, she hurried to Mikhail's room to talk to her big brother, suggesting she could study on her own. The clever Mikhail saw right through her. "You're just saying that because you're afraid I'll fight with father again, aren't you? But have you thought about what people will say? They'll think you're being treated differently because you're an illegitimate child." But little Cheryl said, "I don't care what other people think. I know my father, mother, and brothers love me, and that's enough." Mikhail looked at her, surprised. "You're saying that I love you too?" The little girl replied confidently, "Of course." Mikhail affectionately patted her head. "Don't worry, I won't fight with them anymore. But just you wait, I have a plan." A few days later, a distinguished guest arrived at the manor. Cheryl peeked curiously from the doorway. It was the great scholar Dr. Davies. He had come to ask Mikhail to be his graduate student and eventually take a position in the field of education. He was here today to get the Baron and Baroness's opinion. Naturally, the couple was thrilled. Dr. Davies was a renowned scholar, after all. As they were talking, a maid brought in a tray of fruit and accidentally bumped into the peeking Cheryl. Just as Cheryl started to apologize, Mikhail called her in. Cheryl was confused, wondering why he wanted her to come in. Mikhail introduced her to the scholar. "This is the little sister I told you about, Cheryl Valerius." This surprised Dr. Davies. I never thought the cool and distant Mikhail would be so fond of his little sister. Hearing this, Mikhail's expression turned serious again. "It's not that I'm fond of her, it's more like a meeting of minds. In time, you'll see that my sister is extraordinary." He then beckoned Cheryl over to greet Dr. Davies. When Cheryl heard the name Dr. Davies, her heart skipped a beat. "This is the Grand Scholar of the Elven Kingdom and a favorite of King Theron. But if I get involved with the royal court, my identity will be in danger." The only thing to do was to pretend she wasn't that exceptional. She immediately acted shy, a move that surprised her older brother. Baron Valerius, however, breathed a sigh of relief. "It's like this child knows exactly what I'm worried about." Mikhail picked up little Cheryl and tried to coach her. "You can recite the last 10 digits of pi, right?" But little Cheryl just whimpered, "Brother, I can't remember." Arden was devastated. "You're not my sister! Give me my real Cheryl back!" As expected, Dr. Davies saw this and thought the child was nothing special after all. Certainly not as brilliant as Mikhail had claimed. Having successfully bluffed her way through, Cheryl let out a long sigh. Now Dr. Davies wouldn't pay any attention to her, and the Valeriuses could relax. But they had just been talking about the queen. She hadn't seen her mother since birth and had no idea how she was doing. She decided to sneak over and listen in. At that moment, they were discussing King Theron. In recent years, he has pacified all the border disputes and brought the Dark Elves and other clans under his rule. He is truly the greatest king in our kingdom's history. And with Queen Althea's gentle influence, she brings stability to the realm. Queen Althea is of noble birth, yet she is so kind and gracious. She is a blessing to our kingdom. A famous poet even wrote a poem in her praise. A beauty in the north, peerless and alone. The words slipped out before Cheryl could stop herself. "Oh no, I just subconsciously recited a poem from the history books." A round of applause broke the silence. Dr. Davies asked her kindly, "Little girl, how do you know that poem?" Cheryl had to play dumb again. "A traveling minstrel at the manor recited it once, and I just remembered it." Dr. Davies was delighted and pulled out a letter. "It seems we've found the perfect person for this invitation. Her Majesty the Queen hosts a court banquet every month. I'm sure she would be thrilled to know that a 5-year-old child knows the poem written in her honor." Little Cheryl held the invitation, unsure what to do, and looked to the Baron. The Baron thought that while it was risky for Cheryl to attend the banquet, it was being hosted by the Queen herself. It had been 5 years since the Queen had last seen Cheryl. This might be their only chance to reunite. Missing it could mean never seeing each other again. So, he readily agreed. Dr. Davies was pleased. "In that case, your whole family should prepare to be received by Her Majesty the Queen." Now, 5 years later, the little princess finally has a chance to go to the palace and see her real mother. Her adoptive mother dressed her in a beautiful outfit, praising how pretty she looked. It had been 20 years since the Valerius family, once a prominent house, had been to the palace. Even the boisterous Arden was seriously choosing his clothes. "A plain hat just won't do for a handsome face like mine." The cool and distant Mikhail was even practicing his court etiquette. The whole family was busy preparing, except for one person sulking in the corner. Avery, the little troublemaker, was still hostile toward Cheryl. But when Cheryl noticed him looking glum, she walked right up and invited him to come to the banquet with her. She thought, "After I've been this nice, you have to give me some face, right?" But the little brat just coldly replied, "Who wants to go?" Cheryl was so annoyed. This little kid is so much trouble. Avery waved his hand dismissively and walked away, though he was thinking to himself, well, I guess it wouldn't hurt to go. Meanwhile, in the palace, Dr. Davies was trying to persuade the stubborn king to support his Universal Education Act. King Theron was skeptical. Are you saying commoners should receive the same education as royalty and nobility? Dr. Davies explained patiently. The royal family does indeed possess an extraordinary bloodline, but among the millions of commoners, there are some with remarkable talents. I have a student who is so exceptional, he surpasses even me. If we could cultivate more pillars of the state like him, it would be a blessing for our kingdom. The king nodded in agreement. Dr. Davies pressed his advantage. That student of mine has a younger sister. Technically, she isn't allowed to attend school, but she is truly talented. Before he could finish, the misogynistic Theron cut him off. Why does a woman need to study? Women should be at home taking care of their husbands and children. Dr. Davies wouldn't give up. This child is truly different. At just 5 years old, she can recite obscure poems. Could we make an exception and allow her into the royal primary school? Besides, she is of noble birth. The Valerius family performed great deeds for the previous king. He then placed a portrait of Cheryl on the desk. Theron waved his hand impatiently. All right, I've heard you. You may leave. After Dr. Davies left, Theron picked up Cheryl's file with a frown, but he only glanced at it before tossing it into the trash. Soon, the day of the Queen's banquet arrived. The Valerius family arrived as planned, and the prideful Avery had tagged along after all. As Cheryl looked at the magnificent palace, she felt a sense of familiarity. Is it my mother's scent? 5 years. She was finally back. Arden was bouncing with excitement, amazed by all the different people from foreign lands he'd never seen before. The cool and handsome Mikhail also became the center of attention, charming countless young ladies. But the Baron and his wife received some bad news. Her Majesty the Queen was feeling unwell and could not attend the banquet, so Cheryl wouldn't be able to see her real mother after all. Cheryl was deeply disappointed. The lively party meant nothing to her. She quietly tugged on the Baron's sleeve and said she needed to use the restroom. Feeling down, Cheryl wandered aimlessly. In the history books, the banished Cheryl never saw the Queen again. I really hope I can see my mother next time. But before she knew it, she had wandered far off. When she finally realized where she was, she panicked. Oh no, where am I? She was always getting lost in her past life. How did her terrible sense of direction follow her into this book? Staring down the empty corridor, Cheryl was terrified, her legs trembling. Suddenly, she heard a rustling sound behind her. She whirled around in fear and froze. A figure reached out a large hand to grab her, his voice booming. Who are you? What are you doing here? Cheryl was completely petrified, breaking out in a cold sweat and shaking uncontrollably. She remembered what the Baroness had told her once inside the palace. Don't speak to anyone except the Queen. So she kept her mouth shut. But when she got a clear look at the person, she nearly died of fright. After a second of shock, she turned and ran for her life. Oh, this is the worst luck. I ran into that pig, Theron. If he catches me, I'm dead. She pumped her little legs and ran as fast as she could, but suddenly, 5 burly men appeared in front of her. One of them grabbed her. Cheryl struggled to get away, but in the next second she was brought before the king. Theron reached out and held her up, leaving her dangling in the air, unable to move. When she confirmed that the man in front of her was indeed Theron, her face instantly turned pale with fear. Theron stared at her with cold, hard eyes, a look that could kill. Cheryl clenched her fists, trying hard not to cry, but the terrifying pressure radiating from him was overwhelming. He was like a devil. Insolent brat, trespassing in a restricted area of the palace. Do you know that disturbing His Majesty is a capital offense? She backs away in fear, trying to escape, but a guard grabs her and starts dragging her off to be fed to the wolves. She tearfully reaches out to her father for mercy, but all she gets is a cold kill her. With a final snap, it's game over. Because no one liked this story, Cheryl's journey has ended prematurely. You're all responsible. But when she snapped out of it, Cheryl was surprised to find that it was all just her imagination. She looked up at her father in terror. What do I do? Is he going to kill me? He probably doesn't recognize me, so it should be fine, right? But she couldn't stop shaking. King Theron was a little surprised by her expression. What a pathetic sight, this poor child. Scared, weak, and lost like a homeless stray. He turned and ordered displeasedly, "Find out where this child came from." The subordinate immediately replied, "Today is Her Majesty's banquet. The child probably wandered off from there. She has offended Your Majesty. I will have her taken away and executed immediately." But Theron uncharacteristically said, "That won't be necessary. Just send her back." So why do you all think Theron let Cheryl go? Back at the palace banquet hall, little Cheryl was escorted back by the king's personal guard. As they marched majestically through the crowd, People who didn't know what was going on started whispering. "Whose child is that? What a grand entrance." Someone with sharp eyes exclaimed, "Those look like the king's royal guards. That kid is so lucky." Cheryl nearly stumbled hearing that. "Lucky? You call almost losing my head lucky?" As the guards left, Cheryl let out a huge sigh of relief. The Baroness and her brother rushed over anxiously. "Oh, Cheryl, we thought you were lost." Cheryl could only explain, "I got lost and a guard brought me back." She didn't tell them about meeting King Theron, afraid of worrying them. But no matter what, it seemed she had survived this time. Ever since Cheryl came back from the palace, she had been refusing to get out of bed. The memory of her father's fierce gaze filled her with anxiety. A constant sense of unease made her feel like she was on pins and needles. The Valerius family was very worried about her. It seemed like something was weighing on Cheryl's mind, and she wasn't her usual cheerful self. Mikhail analyzed the situation with concern. Cheryl has never been one to slack off like this. Is she sick? Her troll of a brother just said, "My sister must be possessed," and got his head smacked by his mom. But the intelligent young man thought back to the banquet. Cheryl had been brought back by the king's personal guard. Could something have happened at the palace? Meanwhile, in the palace, King Theron was lost in thought. His eyes happened to glance at the trash can. He lifted his hand and snapped his fingers. Cheryl's file flew out of the bin and landed in his hand. It turned out the king was a powerful mage. When he saw Cheryl's portrait, Theron was a bit surprised. "So this is that pathetic little stray I met." The next day, in the headmaster's office, as soon as Mikhail walked in, Dr. Davies greeted him with good news. "I've finally managed to arrange what you asked of me. His Majesty the King has agreed to let your sister Cheryl enroll in the Royal Primary School. But don't get too excited. The king wants to interview her himself." When Mikhail got home, he shared the news with Cheryl. Hearing that her own father wanted to interview her, Cheryl nearly had a breakdown. "Some great brother you are? You're basically throwing me to the wolves." But the oblivious Mikhail was still encouraging her. "Congratulations, Cheryl." Cheryl was on the verge of tears. Is this really where my story ends? At a meeting with the kingdom's nobles, they were furious when they heard they were expected to fund schools for commoners. "Why do commoners need to learn to read? They just need to work for us. That old fool Davies should be hanged." King Theron listened to their selfish arguments with deep disdain. Just then, a guard reminded him, "The little girl you scheduled for an interview has arrived." After being brought into the palace by a maid, Cheryl was simply left alone. "Just let her wait here by herself." The silent palace made the little girl nervous. "Ugh, I wish Mikhail were here." 10 minutes passed and still no one came. Cheryl was about to cry from fear. But all this time, King Theron was watching her from above. A guard suggested, "Should we send a maid to her? She seems a little scared." Theron replied with amusement, "No need. She is scared, that's true. She's fearful, weak, and lost, but she also has a calmness beyond her years. She's an interesting little thing. Let's go down and see her." Hearing footsteps, Cheryl was about to hide. But when she saw who it was, her eyes went wide with terror. "Theron." She quickly composed herself and stammered a greeting to the king. Inside, she was freaking out. "When did he get here? Has he been watching me this whole time?" Theron asked, a little surprised. "Why aren't you afraid of me?" His words made Cheryl tremble again. Is he talking about the last time I ran into him? What do I do? The history books say Theron has a volatile temper and executes people for no reason. If I say the wrong thing, I'm done for. Thinking fast, she started to flatter him. "My mother told me that His Majesty the King is like a god and should be respected, not feared. And last time I wasn't scared of you, Your Majesty. I was scared of the unknown in the darkness. Only a wicked person whose identity is a mystery is scary. A person of status wouldn't do evil so easily." After saying all that, Cheryl felt a little proud of herself. I've buttered him up so much he probably won't punish me now. But the king saw right through her. This little one doesn't mean a word of that. Yet Theron wasn't angry. In fact, her response was familiar to him. It reminded him of a little boy who had once been just as subservient in front of his older sister. Shaking off the unpleasant memories, Theron turned back to Cheryl. "Do you want to attend the Royal Primary School?" Without a second thought, Cheryl replied, "Yes." She figured since she couldn't escape this, her only chance was to become a powerful mage who could control her own destiny. Theron smiled faintly. Well, at least that was an honest answer. The scene changed, and now Theron was having tea with Cheryl. Cheryl was internally screaming, "Oh my God, I'm sitting this close to this pig." Theron suddenly asked her, "Why do you want to study? You're only 5 or 6. Why waste your best years on books?" Cheryl was silent for a moment, then looked up with determination. "I want to become a mage." But she had no idea that the man in front of her, King Theron, was the most powerful mage on the entire continent. When the king heard that Cheryl wanted to become a great mage, he was amused. You want to defy the limits of your bloodline and rely on hard work alone? Of course, he had no idea that the cute little girl in front of him was his own daughter. He asked Cheryl, "Is your brother a student at the Royal Academy?" The little girl immediately brightened up. "Yes, my brother Mikhail is brilliant. He was scouted by the great scholar and admitted without an exam." Cheryl thought to herself, maybe this pig isn't so bad after all. Theron stared at her for a long time before asking, "So what can you do?" Cheryl was taken aback. Theron took a sip of his tea. "Have you forgotten? This is an interview. Show me what you're good at. I'll test you." Cheryl felt a little stuck. Performing some low-level magic in front of him would be pointless. What could she possibly do that would impress him? Then an idea struck her. I'll show you the power of an Earthling's basic education. I can recite pi to 100 decimal places." As she began, 3.41592.6, everyone was stunned. A child this young was incredible. How could she remember a number that long? But before anyone could cheer, Theron slammed his teacup down on the table with a crash. A dark aura surrounded him. He felt a familiar discomfort, the old fear of being controlled by his older sister washing over him again. With a dark expression, he stood up and commanded coldly, "Someone, get her out of the palace." Little Cheryl was completely baffled, with no idea what she had done wrong. A clueless guard was still praising her. "Little Cheryl is amazing. I just used an appraisal spell to check, and she didn't get a single digit wrong." He immediately shut up when Theron shot him an icy glare. It was only after overhearing the maids whispering that Cheryl understood. Only the former monarch, Theron's older sister, had been able to recite pi to 100 decimal places. His Majesty must have been reminded of her. And so Cheryl was escorted to a carriage. As the palace grew smaller in the distance, she thought dejectedly, well, that backfired spectacularly. So why do you all think King Theron got angry? And will little Cheryl get another chance to return to the palace? I heard that when the Valerius girl had her audience with the king, His Majesty just stormed out. The nobles were buzzing. What did she do? She's got some nerve. I don't know how they're going to fix this. The Valerius family is in big trouble now. Cheryl spent a tense week filled with anxiety. But thankfully, Theron didn't issue any punishment. Arden is going to flip out when he finds out. This invitation is from Dr. Davies. All the guests are top scholars. Arden hates studying. He'd just be bored. Cheryl, you've never been on a long trip before. Will you be scared? Did you pack enough things? Don't worry, Mother. Mikhail will be there with me. It'll be fine. Dr. Davies had invited Mikhail and me to stay at his manor for a while to discuss a special project. But I suspected Mikhail had arranged it just to help me clear my head. Don't worry, Father. I'll take good care of Cheryl, Mikhail assured him. But their father was still worried. Did Dr. Davies really invite Cheryl personally? Yes. The professor is a favorite of the king, so I don't think His Majesty is actually angry. A king wouldn't get upset over a child. Big brother, don't you feel guilty at all? The Valerius family is on the verge of disaster, and you're taking the little witch out of town to avoid the trouble, all while making it sound so noble. You get over here! How about now? Feeling better? And so Mikhail and Cheryl set off. Cheryl, are you still upset about the king's interview? Cheryl knew her brother had arranged this trip to the manor specifically for her, and she didn't want him to worry. She thought for a moment before saying, "Yeah, everything was going fine, and then I don't know what happened. He just suddenly got angry and left." It's okay, even if you can't get into the royal primary school, being tutored by Dr. Davies is just as good. The king has always been unpredictable. Don't worry about it too much. Is it really okay to say the king is unpredictable out loud? It's fine. There's no one else around. Hearing that, Cheryl finally let her feelings out. That pig is so infuriating. Cheryl, you're the first person to ever get a personal interview with the king. That alone is pretty amazing. Mikhail was the best. After opening up to him, she felt much better. Maybe he had some kind of healing magic. At Devonshire Manor, Dr. Davies was already waiting for them. Thank you for having us, Professor. Don't be formal. I have a lot of materials I need your help organizing. Haha. Cheryl looked around. So this was the famous scholar Dr. Davies' manor. It was so elegant. It looks like Dr. Davies has a guest. Should we take another route? What are you talking about? Since when does the king make way for others? The king had secretly arrived at a private wing of Devonshire Manor, which made Dr. Davies a bit nervous. I didn't know you were visiting, Your Majesty. I apologize for not welcoming you properly. I'll seal off the manor at once to ensure you're not disturbed. No need, it's stuffy in the palace, so I came out for a walk. Why go to all that trouble? I hear you've invited scholars and celebrities to compile a new textbook. Yes, if the Public Education Act passes, we'll need a curriculum. I plan to present the textbook to you once it's finished. Right now, the manor is filled with scholars and sages. If they knew how much you valued this project, they would be incredibly honored. Your Majesty, I'm so moved. I'll arrange for them to greet you tomorrow morning. We'll see. Don't try to schedule my time. I'll just look around. You go on with your work. The next day, when Dr. Davies went to see the king, he was told His Majesty had gone hunting. The professor sighed. The king is so unpredictable. I'll just have to play it by ear. Meanwhile, Cheryl was eating like there was no tomorrow. The food here was just too delicious. Everything here is amazing. It's paradise. Devonshire Manor was filled with an artistic atmosphere, and Cheryl loved it. She was having a great time. During a banquet, Mikhail brought Cheryl along. She complained that she hadn't brought any nice dresses. With a snap of his fingers, Mikhail changed her into a beautiful gown. Cheryl was even more in awe of her brother. I didn't know you could do transformation magic. It's simple. It's an ultimate illusion spell, but it only lasts for 15 minutes. A second is enough. I'm the prettiest girl at this party. After a few days of fun, Mikhail started working on the task Dr. Davies had given him. They were creating a set of basic textbooks for the Elven Kingdom, covering all sorts of subjects. Mikhail suggested adding the ancient Elven language but not making it too complex. Dr. Davies agreed, but they were stuck on a name for the textbook series. It needed to sound official and dignified, but not too clunky. Cheryl spoke up. How about standard compulsory education textbooks? Education is a citizen's duty? The others weren't so sure. Learning should be joyful. Why should we frame it like a chore, using the word compulsory? Only when education becomes a mandatory, universal duty can we guarantee that everyone has a fair chance to learn. It's our generation's responsibility to strive for this. Dr. Davies was amazed. To think my life's pursuit could be summed up so perfectly by a little girl. A nation's strength lies in its youth. My entire life has been dedicated to finding talents like this. He couldn't help but exclaim, Mikhail, your sister is a real treasure! Everyone was in high spirits when an unexpected guest arrived. His Majesty the King has arrived. As soon as the king entered, Cheryl smelled blood. She had a fear of blood, and she immediately fainted. A long time later, Cheryl woke up. She didn't know where she was, and her brother Mikhail was nowhere in sight. A group of maids appeared and said gently, Lady Cheryl, you're awake. You fainted earlier, and His Majesty brought you here. This is the private wing of Devonshire Manor, prepared for the king. His Majesty went hunting this morning and brought back a black bear to treat the scholars. We didn't expect it would frighten you, but that bear was huge and terrifying. Only His Majesty could kill it so easily. The maids all had looks of adoration, but Cheryl was just scared. The thought of being in the pigs' quarters made her want to leave immediately. Lady Cheryl, would you like to rest a bit longer? Your brother Mikhail said they'll be in the library until late. If you don't want to go. Cheryl ignored them and ran to the library to find her brother. But when she saw how intensely Mikhail and the others were debating, she hesitated. I shouldn't disturb him. Mikhail is shining right now, and nothing should interrupt that. I'll just go to the lounge. As it happened, the king had also come to the lounge. Stop following me. Go do your work, he said to Dr. Davies. After the professor left, the king let out a sigh of relief and sat down right next to Cheryl, which made her freeze up. One of them looked aloof, the other looked awkward. They were the only two idle people in the entire manor. Just then, Cheryl's stomach rumbled and she blushed. She wanted to reach for some food, but she was too short. After hesitating, she finally walked up to the king. I'd like that Black Forest cake. Could you please get it for me? The king was cold and didn't move. Cheryl spoke again, her voice steady. I can't reach it, and you're the only adult here. After some persistent pestering, the king finally got the cake for her. Cheryl was delighted and said sweetly, Thank you, Your Majesty. It was then that he realized Cheryl was completely different from his older sister. The two of them were getting along almost too well. A guard who walked in was shocked by the scene. I'd also like a macaron, please, a strawberry one. The king obediently picked one up for her. The guard was stunned. His Majesty was getting cake for a child, and more importantly, Lady Cheryl had the nerve to ask him. Seeing the guard had come to find him, the king left. Cheryl was a little disappointed. Your Majesty, Lady Cheryl has such a good personality. She doesn't hold a grudge at all. Last time, even I was a little upset, the guard said, and was immediately glared at by the king. The guard quickly corrected himself. Your Majesty, I absolutely did not mean to imply anything about you. It's just that Lady Cheryl is very different. She seems very mature. She's just a child, now to business. Your Majesty, we've just received a secret letter from the Crown Prince of the Bornean Empire. Have you brought him over? Have him come here first? Once Mikhail finished his work, he rushed to be with Cheryl. I should have been by your side when you fainted. I failed as a brother. I was taken to the private wing on the king's orders. There was nothing you could do. It's not your fault, and I'm perfectly fine now. Even though I know it was an act of grace from His Majesty to have you taken to the private wing, I'm honestly not happy about it. The power of the crown took away a brother's right to be with his sister when she needed him. Our king truly has no concept of family. Mikhail, that sounds a little treasonous. I'm just speaking the truth. Are you going to defend him? I should hate that pig. He sent me away as a baby and forcibly separated me from my mother. But when I think about the small things he did for me, I actually feel happy. I'm so pathetic. What kind of father is he? I should block him from my life. This is for you. Thank you, brother. It's so pretty. The next day, Cheryl went out to play wearing the new hat, admiring her reflection in the water. Suddenly, an eagle swooped down to snatch her hat. After a struggle, the eagle only managed to get the flower on top. It flew back to its master, who grumbled, "You flirtatious bird, was that flower really so pretty?" Later, when Cheryl was by the window, that annoying eagle appeared again, taunting her as if to say, "What are you going to do about it? You stupid bird! I'm going to catch you." She lunged and missed, finding herself right in front of the king. "Lady Cheryl, are you hoping to join His Majesty's convoy on the way back?" "Haha, yes, can I?" Cheryl was just joking, but she couldn't believe it when the pig actually let her ride in his carriage. And just like that, she was on her way home while Mikhail was still stuck at Devonshire Manor working on the textbooks. How did things turn out this way? But she figured her mother and Arden probably missed her. And this way, Mikhail could focus on his work without distractions. "Hampton is getting more and more out of line, putting a child in my carriage. If you make any noise, I'll throw you out." Cheryl was distracted by the eagle outside. Who's in that other carriage? Someone important enough to travel with the king's convoy? I didn't hear about anyone else accompanying him at the manor. "Dad, I'm here, where are you?" The king, seeing the child next to him had fallen asleep, couldn't help but watch her. He reached out and held her small hand. Suddenly, there was a loud bang. "Assassins, protect His Majesty!" Cheryl was jolted awake just in time to see someone being killed. The king quickly covered her eyes. A hissing sound came from outside, and a giant venomous snake appeared. The serpent attacked, causing widespread damage. Seeing the situation was dire, the king stepped forward and launched an attack. "Mere insects, kill them all." A guard went to the other carriage and asked carefully, "Are you all right?" "I'm fine, you were well prepared. His Majesty has been preparing for this ever since he received the letter from Crown Prince Kale. Our elven kingdom may not be a large country, but we don't lack for talented mages." "What about the child?" Lady Cheryl, are you all right?" "You're such a coward, it's over, you can open your eyes now." It was a child's voice. Cheryl opened her eyes and saw blood. The next second, she fainted. This freaked out the prince. "Whoa, what's going on?" "Lady Cheryl, she faints at the sight of blood." The prince hesitated for a moment before gathering Cheryl into his arms. "Lady Cheryl, I'm returning to my duties now. Until next time." "Thank you, Your Majesty, and thank you, Hampton." "Mom, Dad, brothers, I'm home. Cheryl, you're finally back. Life must have been so boring without your second brother around." "Look at you, you've gotten thinner. Oh, I missed you so much." The third brother, Avery, scoffed from the side. "Could you be any more dramatic?" After returning home, Cheryl couldn't shake the feeling that besides the pig and Hampton, she had seen someone else that day. Was it the person from the other carriage? "Why do you smell of black magic?" Avery asked as soon as she walked in. "Dark magic? It must have been from that giant snake." But Cheryl decided to tease her brother. "Everyone who knows that secret is dead." That scared Avery so much he stumbled backward. Seeing his cute reaction made Cheryl laugh. "That's for always trying to scare me. Now we're even." Something about this Cheryl feels different. Meanwhile, in the king's chambers, His Majesty was changing clothes. Hampton reported, "The welcoming ceremony and banquet for the guest from the Bornean Empire are scheduled for next Wednesday. Her Majesty the Queen will not be able to attend." The king didn't say a word, but everyone in the room was terrified. After a long pause, he finally said softly, "Let her be." "Then who will you be escorting?" "No one. Without the Queen, can I not attend on my own? Since when does the Holy King require a female companion?" "Yes, Your Majesty. This is the guest list for the banquet. Please review it." "Andy is also inviting people?" "Yes, Cheryl's name was on the list, the little brat." The king changed his mind. "I'll take Lady Pamelia. Have her bring Princess Alara to the welcoming banquet." At the Valerius Manor, Cheryl was writing a letter to Mikhail. "Dear Mikhail, you'll never guess how I got back to the manor. On the way, we ran into—" She paused. Her mind was a mess, and she wasn't sure if she should write about it. There was a sound at the window, but when Cheryl looked, there was nothing there. Was I hearing things? I must be overthinking things. You're so slow. Why don't you look up? I'm not a creep, you know. What's with that look? I just came to apologize for making you faint last time. Forget it. I'll just talk to you at the banquet. At the banquet, Cheryl's grand entrance had everyone talking. "Who is that?" Why is she getting VIP treatment? Wow, even the dukes didn't get special treatment today. I heard the main event tonight is welcoming the guest from the Bornean Empire. Do you think she could be their princess? Cheryl was speechless. These people have wild imaginations. His Majesty the King has arrived. With him was Princess Alara, technically Theron's youngest daughter. I can't believe it. His Majesty brought Lady Pamelia. He's never escorted one of his consorts to an event like this before. I know, right? It looks like Lady Pamelia is finally getting her moment. There are only 2 consorts left in the harem after all. What's going on? Where is the queen? I heard that to pray for the little prince, the queen has devoted herself to the gods and has gone to the divine spire. What? The queen is in the divine spire? A queen imprisoned in a holy tower serving the gods? She's not doing it for the little prince, he's not even her son. She's doing it for me, Mom. This is also the first time His Majesty has brought Princess Alara out in public like this, right? I thought His Majesty only cared about the little prince. I guess that's not true. Father, Alara would like to dance for you. As Alara danced, Cheryl was in no mood to watch. She was slipping away when she bumped into the prince who had come to greet her. He said her name, and Cheryl was confused. Do you know me? The prince's heart broke. Are you an idiot? We were less than an inch apart last time, and now you're acting like you've never seen me before. You really are something else. Cheryl wasn't listening, her gaze fixed on Princess Alara. The prince noticed. Are you jealous of her? Do all you girls have a princess dream? Being in the spotlight, endless, beautiful dresses? Cheryl didn't answer, lost in thought. The prince stammered. Actually, being a princess in the Elven Kingdom isn't all that great. If you came back with me,